All right, hi friends. So today for math, we are going to be working on how we can kind of problem solve. So we're going to read a problem and then we are going to kind of use drawings or other ways. Drawings are kind of our work to kind of solve our problem. So you are going to either need, if you have a dry erase board at home, that would be good. You could practice doing your work on there and then write your answer on the paper. If you don't have a dry erase board, you could also just get a scrap piece of paper. If worse comes to worse, you have your binder that has loose leaf in it. You can pull out a piece of loose leaf from there too. Okay, but I do need you to find a piece of paper because you're going to need that, or a dry erase board, something where you can do your work. Okay, so we're going to look at the first four kind of questions on this paper. So this is in your packet, your math lesson, it says. We're going to look at the first four, and then I'm going to have you try the rest, and then we'll also go through it then eventually. Okay, so I need you to get out this paper, ready, looking at the first four. Okay, so first one on there, it says, Jacob added two numbers and got a sum of 378. What could the two numbers have been? So what you need to do first is when you read this, you need to go through, and our first step when we're reading a problem is to circle our numbers. So it says, okay, 2 is one of our numbers, 378 is another number. Okay, so we know those are our numbers that we need to look for. Okay, the other thing we need to do is we need to underline our question. So looking at our question, it says, what could the two numbers have been? Okay, so we know what we're doing is we are trying to find two numbers. You kind of just read through the problem and think it through. Two numbers that would equal 378. Okay, so for this one, it's a pretty big three-digit number. So we could think, okay, I know whatever I am doing, my answer is going to be 378. Okay, so really you could think of any number that's smaller than 378. Really, any number that's smaller. Okay, so let's say I decide I'm going to do 150. So you know 378 is your end number. You need to subtract that with 150. Okay, so 150 minus 378. So if we do our math here, 8 minus 0 is 8. Good. 7 minus 5 is 2. Good. 3 minus 1. 2. Good. So I know, okay, if I put 228 here, you can check it over, make sure you got it right, plus 150. If I go to add those, so I say, okay, 8 plus 0. Move it down so you can see it. There we go. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have my two numbers here. So I could write on my piece of paper 228 and 150. Right? Write on your piece of paper. Those are the numbers. Now you could have any different number, like I said. So long as your two numbers is it's smaller than 378, then it doesn't specify. It just says Jacob added two numbers and got a sum. So we know he's adding, it told us. Okay, so any number you kind of choose to do, as long as it's smaller than 378, then you got to figure out, okay, if I subtract that, then what's my other number going to be? Then again, check it with adding. Okay. All right, our next problem, it says, erase here. Next problem says solve 348 plus 292 using as many different strategies as you can. Okay, so you may have to think, okay, what are some different ways I can estimate, right? You could estimate to solve this. I've seen some of you do that in class before, right? So just using as many different strategies as you can. So you might say, okay, I know my numbers are 348 plus 292. You could draw base 10 blocks to do that, right? So you could say, okay, I'm going to draw 300 base 10 blocks, 4 10 blocks, and 8 ones. Okay, and then down here, I'm going to draw 2 base 10 blocks, or 200 blocks, excuse me. Move this over so you can see. I'm going to draw 9 10 blocks. 9, and then I'm going to draw 2 ones. So again, now you could add these together to find it. So I can say, okay, how many do I have here of hundreds? Or actually, we want to start in our ones, just like when we add, right? So how many ones do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know if I have 10 ones, that would equal what? Yeah, it'd equal one of these, a 10. So I could get rid of my ones. That would kind of help me. So even on your paper, I'm not going to erase because you won't want to erase on your paper. You could just cross it off. Okay, so now how many tens do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So how many tens equal 100? Good, 10 of those. So I have 13. So I'm going to keep 3. And I'm going to get rid of the other 10 and make 100. Okay, and then how many hundreds now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and we know that's not enough to equal 1,000, right? How many hundreds equal 1,000? 10, so we aren't quite there yet, okay? So I'd count. So for my ones, I have 0. So this would be 0. For my tens, I have 3. And then for my hundreds, I have 6. So 630. There's one strategy you could use. Now it says to use as many as you can. So as long as your answer's on the paper, that's fine. But I want you to see how many strategies you can use. And then I want you on your paper to write. So let's say you use 5 strategies. I want you to write 5 strategies. I use 5 strategies. Another way we could do it, we've been working on expanded form. You could break it into expanded form. Right? You could say, okay, 300 plus 40 plus 8. And this one, 200 plus 90 plus 2. And then you would just add. Now you just would add your expanded. So 8 plus 2, we know is 10. So we got to be careful there because we're putting a 0, but we're adding a 1 to our tens there. Right? So 40 plus 90. So we know 0 plus 0 would be 0. 4 plus 9 would be 3. And then one more would be 4. Okay, so we'd have to, let me see here. That's 3. I think we missed one on here. We should have had 4 on here. Yes, and we put 3. 4, 640. Okay, because 4 plus 9 is 3 plus the 1 would give us 40 here. Or 4, right? Because we're not, well, yeah, plus 40, right? And then over here then, we know that's 14, we said, so we got to put a 1 over there to add that 100. So 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 1 is 6, so that'd be 600. So 600 plus 40 plus 0. I apologize. Somehow we missed a 4 there. Must have missed when we were crossing them off. Okay, so there's another strategy. Okay. Another strategy is you could practice estimating. So say, okay, I know I have 300. So 300 plus 200 would give me at 500. There's an estimate. But then I can say, okay, I have 40. So 40 plus 90. That would get me up to 130. Okay, so we can say, okay, 500 plus 130 would be 630. And then I just have my 8 and 2, right? So 8 plus 2 would give me that 10. So if I'm estimating, I'm kind of just making each one, kind of making it into hundreds or tens there. Okay, maybe there's another strategy you have. See if you can think of any other strategies that you can come up with to find your answer to this problem. And then again, you need to make sure this is written on your paper, your answer. Okay, so there's number 2. Number 3. So for number 3, it says use the digits. Sorry, making sure we can see it on the screen there. Use the digits 2, 5, 0, 9, and 6, and 7 to make 2 3-digit numbers. So 2 3-digit numbers with the greatest sum. Okay, so we got to think, what does that word greatest mean? We talked about that in class a little bit. Greatest, a biggest, right? So you're trying to find your biggest. And what sum mean? What are we doing with those numbers? Adding, right? Sum means to add. That's important to know. Okay, and then we need to make sure we circle 2, 5, 0, 9, 6, 7. So, and it says 2 3-digit numbers. That helps us know. So we know we're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We want to have the biggest sum, the biggest answer. We're adding. So when we look at our numbers here, it says, let's see, use the digits to make two 3-digit numbers with the greatest sum. So it sounds like we're not reusing a digit. They want us to try and put these in a way where we'll have the biggest sum. So if we want to have the biggest sum, that means we want to add the biggest numbers, right? So we want to make sure that our first numbers are kind of the biggest in our two numbers because we want to make sure it's as big as it can be. So what's our biggest number on that paper? Good. If you looked, you found 9. Now, for our second number, though, if we just do the next biggest number, next biggest, then our second number is not going to be very big. So we want to make sure we kind of do them together, okay? So what would be our next biggest number? Good, 7. So I would write that on your second number, though, okay? So you could cross it off on your paper saying, okay, I use 9 and 7. All right, what's our next biggest number? Good, 6. What's our next biggest number? Good, 5. Okay, so now we just have 2 numbers left. So again, I would kind of just put them, kind of make it as big as you can, right? So 2 is our next one, right? And then 0, good, okay? So then you would add those up. Say, okay, 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 5, 11. So you need to carry your 1. 9 plus 7, good, it'd be 16, but then add that 1 in, 17. So we made 1,712. That should be on your paper. Write that down. Okay, so if we would have done like 7 or 6 first, then it wouldn't been quite as big, but we used our biggest numbers going down to make sure that we had the biggest numbers possible to get that sum. Okay, so that's number 3. Make sure you write that in your paper. As I mentioned, we're going to do one more, and then I'm going to have you pause the video and work on the rest, and then you can play it to check them over. Okay, so when you pause your video, or real quick, let's do this last one, sorry. It says, create an addition sentence involving two 3-digit numbers whose sum is greater than 1,000, but less than 1,500. Okay, so it says, like I said, create an addition sentence so create an addition sentence so we know we're adding, involving two 3-digit numbers. So we know we're doing two 3-digit again. Two 3-digit numbers whose sum is greater than 1,000. Whose sum is greater than 1,000. So greater than 1,000, but less than 1,500. So we got to be careful. We can make it bigger than 1,000, but we can't go too big. Okay, so again, I would circle numbers here. What are some of our numbers? Yep, so we're doing two 3-digit numbers. And 1,500 greater than or less than and greater than 1,000. So I would underline greater than 1,000, less than 1,500. And then last, create an addition. We know we're adding, okay? So one thing I think of right away is what can I add together to get me 1,000? What are some numbers? Yeah, 500 is what I think of, right? 500 plus 500 gives me 1,000. Now it says greater than 1,000. That means it can't equal 1,000. So what we could do is we could easily just change those numbers up a little, couldn't we? We'd make it bigger than 1,000. So instead of saying 500, what if I said 520 and added 20 there instead? And then instead of saying 500 again, what if I said, I'm going to do 600. Okay, now we got to stay close though, because if we go too big, it's going to be bigger than 1,500, right? So we got to make sure that whatever numbers we pick, if you even just want to change your tens place or your ones place and say 502, you could just change it a little because we got to stay under that 1,500. And a way to help us with that is we could think, okay, what can I add to get 1,500? So what two numbers can I add together to get 15? That will kind of help us. Good, 7 plus 8, right? So I know I can't go bigger than 700 or 800, right? Because that would give me that 1,000 at the end, right? I don't want to go bigger. So I know I have to say smaller than these two numbers, but I need to go bigger than that. Okay, so we have our 520 plus 600 here. So we add those. 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. And 5 plus 6 is 11. So 1,120. Is that smaller than 1,500? Yep. So that would be in our parameter. So we could write this on our paper, all right? 1,120. Now, since it says create an addition sentence involving that, you need to write your two numbers. So you need to actually write all this on your paper, because if you don't write your addition sentence, then you didn't answer the question, right? You just gave me an answer. Okay. Actually, we're going to do one more and then I'm going to have you pause it. okay? So this last one is kind of a story problem, and you'll see a lot more of these the rest of the page. I want to make sure we kind of have practice with one of these, okay? So it says Taylor has 468 pictures in her photo album. Okay, so she has 468 pictures. She added 229 pictures from her summer vacation. Okay, so then our last question says, or our question says, how many pictures are in her album now? How many pictures are in her album now? Okay, so again, with story problems like this, it's important that we kind of make sure we kind of dissect our story problem here. So, as we talked about before, we're circling those important numbers. What are our important numbers that we circle? Good, they gave us 468, 229. Okay, and then what are we underlining? Our question, right? So our question says, how many pictures are in her album now? Now, we need to make sure, though, we kind of also figure out if we're adding, subtracting, what we're doing on here. So are there any clues in there we could box that tell us what we're doing? So we want to box around, put a kind of rectangle around any clues that tell us if we're adding, subtracting, what equation we're doing. Good, so it says she added the pictures, right? So that tells us we're adding. Okay, so that's our clue there. So now that we know we're doing 468 and 229, and we know we're adding, we can set up our problem. So 468 plus 229. Okay, so we say 8 plus 9 is what? Good, 17. So 7, put your 1 up there. 6 plus 2? Good, that's 8 plus 1 is 9. And then 4 plus 2? Good, that would be 6. So we know 697 what? You need to make sure you put your label on your paper. So not just write 697. What would be our label? Look back in your story problem to help you. Good, it'd be pictures. So you need to make sure you write 697 pictures. Okay. All right, so now's the time I'm going to have you pause your video. And you are going to work on your paper, the rest of the problems on there. Okay, so work through them. There are 2 sides. Once you've done one side, go ahead and flip to the back, work all the way through, and then go ahead and press play on the video again, and it will play, and you can go ahead and check over your answers with me. Okay, so go ahead and pause it, and I'll even stop the video for a second, and then I'll play it again, and we can kind of go through it together. Okay.